2 months after my divorce, I thought I was finally starting to breathe again. The first few weeks had been a blur. Empty rooms, unanswered questions, and the quiet ache that comes from realizing the person you loved most is now a stranger. My ex-wife, Hannah, and I had been married for 6 years. Ours wasn't a fiery love story. It was gentle, predictable, the kind people called stable. We had our morning coffee rituals, lazy Sunday movies, and quiet drives where words weren't needed. Or so I thought. Then, out of nowhere, it all collapsed. I found out Hannah was cheating. Not from her, but from a message meant for someone else. It was one of those moments where the world doesn't explode, it just stops. You stare at your phone, reading the same words again and again, hoping you're misunderstanding. But you're not. When I confronted her, she didn't deny it. She just sat there, silent, tears streaming down her face. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "It just happened." That was all she said. No excuses. No fight. Just an apology that did nothing but echo in my head for weeks. I packed my things that night. There were no dramatic scenes, no begging, no broken dishes, just the sound of a zipper closing on a suitcase and a marriage quietly ending. 2 months later, I was living alone in a small apartment. My days were mechanical: work, gym, frozen dinners, sleep. I had blocked Hannah everywhere, deleted our photos, even changed my route to avoid driving by the house we shared. Then one evening, my phone rang. Caller ID. Emily, Hannah's sister. My stomach tightened. I hadn't spoken to Emily since the divorce. She was younger than Hannah by 3 years, smart, outspoken, and always had this way of seeing through people. I hesitated before answering. "Hello." "Hey, it's me," she said, her voice softer than I remembered. "Can we talk?" "Emily, I don't think." "It's important," she interrupted. "And it's about Hannah." That name hit me like a cold wave. I wanted to hang up, but curiosity, and maybe some leftover pain, kept me listening. "What about her?" I asked. There was a long pause. "I can't explain over the phone. Can you meet me tomorrow? At the cafe near Maple Street?" I sighed. "Emily, I really don't want to get dragged into anything." "It's not drama," she said quickly. "It's closure. I think you deserve to know something." Her tone was strange, almost nervous. Against my better judgment, I agreed. The next morning, I sat in the cafe, the smell of roasted coffee filling the air. My leg bounced under the table as I checked the time again and again. Then I saw her, Emily, walking in, clutching a small brown envelope. She looked different, tired, like she hadn't been sleeping well. "Hey," she said quietly, sitting down. "Hey," I replied. "What's this about?" She slid the envelope across the table. "This is for you. Hannah left it with me before everything." My chest tightened. "What is it?" She shook her head. "I didn't open it. She made me promise to give it to you only if you two divorced." I stared at the envelope. My name written in Hannah's handwriting, neat and careful, the same way she used to label our spice jars. I didn't touch it right away. Why didn't she just give it to me herself? Emily sighed. Because she was scared. Because she didn't know how to face you after what she did. Her words stung more than I wanted to admit. I finally picked up the envelope. It was light, just a few sheets of paper inside. My fingers trembled as I opened it. Inside were 2 handwritten pages and a photo. The photo was of us, me and Hannah, from our honeymoon in Italy. She had written on the back, "The happiest day of my life. I hope someday you'll understand why I did what I did." My throat tightened as I unfolded the letter. "To Daniel, if you're reading this, it means I've done the one thing I swore I never would. I hurt you. I don't expect forgiveness, and I know words won't undo what's been done. But before you decide who I became, I want you to know who I was when it happened." The rest of the words blurred as I tried to focus, my heart pounding in my ears. She wrote about loneliness, about how, over the years, we stopped being partners and started being roommates, how she felt unseen, unimportant, like she was fading into the background of my life. She confessed to meeting someone from work, someone who made her feel noticed again. "I hated myself every moment it went on," she wrote. It wasn't love, Daniel. It was escape. But by the time I realized that, I had already lost the one person who truly loved me. I didn't know how long I sat there after reading it. The cafe buzzed around me, but I couldn't hear a thing. Finally, Emily broke the silence. She wanted you to know she's leaving the city. She thought this would help you move on. I folded the letter carefully, my chest heavy. Move on. I repeated quietly, as if the words could actually mean something. Emily reached across the table and touched my hand gently. She messed up, Daniel. But she never stopped loving you. I looked up at her, searching her face for any sign of deception, but she just looked sad. Why are you telling me this? I asked. She hesitated, then said something I wasn't ready for. Because I saw how much you loved her, and because I think she loved you too much to face what she'd done. The words lingered between us. When I finally left the cafe, the evening air felt colder than usual. I walked home in silence, the letter still in my pocket, my heart heavier than it had been in months. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept rereading her words, searching for some hidden truth, some line that would make it all make sense. But all I found were questions and a painful realization. Maybe Hannah hadn't betrayed me out of cruelty. Maybe she'd done it out of emptiness, the kind that grows quietly between two people who stop truly seeing each other. Still, it didn't make the pain any less real. And as I lay there in the dark, I couldn't shake one haunting thought. Why did Emily sound so nervous when she said she had something to tell me? And why did I feel like the letter wasn't the only secret she was carrying? The next few days after meeting Emily were a blur. I couldn't stop thinking about that letter. Every word felt like a wound reopening. It wasn't just betrayal anymore. It was confusion. How could someone love me and still destroy everything we had? I left the envelope on my kitchen table, but I couldn't bring myself to throw it away. Sometimes I'd walk past it, my fingers brushing against the edge, wondering what Hannah was doing now. Was she happy? Did she ever think about me? 3 nights later, I got another message. Emily, can we meet again? I hesitated. Part of me didn't want to, but there was something about her tone that felt urgent. We met at the same cafe, same corner table. This time, she didn't bring an envelope, just herself, looking even more restless than before. Thanks for coming, she said quietly, stirring her coffee though she never drank it. What's going on, Emily? She looked around, as if making sure no one was listening. Then, her voice lowered. There's something else you should know about Hannah. Something she never wanted you to find out. My stomach turned. What do you mean? Emily sighed, running her fingers through her hair. You remember the guy she cheated with? You never asked who it was. I didn't need to, I said sharply. It didn't matter. Maybe it should have, she replied softly. Because it wasn't just some random coworker. I frowned. Then who was it? Emily hesitated, her eyes flicking up to mine. It was Mark. For a moment, the name didn't register. And then it hit me. Mark? My best friend Mark? She nodded slowly. I didn't want to be the one to tell you, but you deserve to know the truth. I sat back, trying to breathe, but the air felt too thick. I laughed once, bitterly. Of course it was him. I should have known. Memories flooded in. Barbecues, late-night drinks, the way Mark used to come over when Hannah made dinner. He always joked that she cooked better than his girlfriend. I'd thought nothing of it. He told her he loved her. Emily said quietly. But she never left you for him. After you found out, she cut him off completely. She said she'd made a mistake, that she wanted to disappear rather than face either of you again. I pressed my hands against my face. Why are you telling me this now? Because Mark tried to contact her last week, she said. And she didn't answer. He called me instead. I lowered my hands. What did he say? He said Hannah's been sick. Really sick. And she hasn't told anyone. I stared at her. What kind of sick? She has lymphoma, Emily whispered. It started months before the divorce. She didn't tell you because she didn't want you to stay out of pity. The words hit harder than anything I'd heard before. My mind went blank. I wanted to deny it, to say Emily was lying. but something in her trembling voice told me she wasn't. She thought she could beat it quietly, Emily continued. Then the affair happened, and everything fell apart. After that, she didn't have the strength to face you anymore. I couldn't speak. My throat burned as I stared at the table, the coffee cup between us slowly going cold. Where is she now? I finally asked. In a hospice outside the city, Emily said softly. She didn't want me to tell you, but when she realized she might not have much time left, she said she hoped you'd forgive her someday. Forgive her? The words echoed in my head, sharp and hollow. I stood up abruptly. Tell me where. Daniel. Emily, just tell me where she is. She hesitated, then scribbled an address on a napkin. But please be gentle. She's not the same Hannah you knew. That night, I drove without thinking. The city lights blurred past my windshield as the rain began to fall. Every memory replayed. Her laugh, her soft humming in the kitchen, the way she used to rest her head on my shoulder when she was tired. When I reached the hospice, it was nearly midnight. The nurse at the desk recognized the name immediately. She's asleep right now, the nurse said kindly. But you can sit with her if you'd like. I walked down the dim hallway, the smell of antiseptic and quiet filling the air. And there she was, lying in a small bed by the window, her hair thinner, her skin pale. For a long moment I couldn't move. I just stood there, watching the woman who had once been my whole world. Then I sat down beside her, quietly, afraid even my breathing might wake her. She stirred a little, eyes fluttering open. When she saw me, surprise flickered across her face, then something softer, relief, maybe. Daniel? Her voice was barely a whisper. Yeah, I said, forcing a smile. It's me. Tears welled in her eyes. You shouldn't have come. Then you shouldn't have left, I whispered back. She laughed weakly, a sound that broke halfway through. You got my letter? I did, I said. But I didn't get all the truth, did I? Her eyes closed. I didn't want you to remember me as someone sick. I wanted you to hate me instead. I reached for her hand, cold but still familiar. I tried, I said softly. But I couldn't. For a long time, neither of us spoke. Rain tapped against the window, the only sound in the room. Finally, she whispered, I'm sorry, Daniel. For everything. For Mark. For lying. For breaking something good. I swallowed hard, blinking away tears. I forgave you a long time ago, Hannah. I just didn't know it yet. She smiled faintly, the corners of her lips trembling. You were always too kind. We sat there until she drifted back to sleep. I stayed the whole night, holding her hand, watching the first light of dawn spill across the room. As the sun rose, I realized something. Love doesn't always end cleanly. Sometimes it lingers, quietly, in the spaces between anger and forgiveness. And sometimes, no matter how much pain it brings, it's still worth remembering.